the Around the NFL podcast. Is a total eclipse on our hearts. Kill me.
From the Chris Westland podcast studio, it's Around the NFL. I'm Dan Hanzus, back from vacation. Got heroes here. Gregg Rosenthal and Marc Sessler. Yes, we just did see the eclipse. Or did we? I don't know.
I looked up at the sun directly for
But you
a
mustn't,
second.
Mark.
Yeah, but let's say your eyes are like your eyeballs will be singed and burned out. That's not the case, as far as I know.
Right.
See where we are
Oh,
tomorrow.
you are bleeding from the cornea, right?
Other than that.
Yeah. Otherwise, fine.
Dan motivated us to go. We sort of missed the peak of it, but we were about to start taping. It was time, so we went up there, and unfortunately, we realized it's possible to be in a group of 35 NFL media employees, and we didn't know anyone to ask for their glasses from. So
I went.
tough spot.
I was a little ahead of you guys. I made a
Tough-
straight beeline,
Tough spot.
looking for literally one person I knew here.
Well, I like the concept
dice.
that in a dangerous visual setting, we would just take other people's glasses.
Well, just ask for
Yeah,
them. I think you
you don't
what
need
do
them.
do with
We'll take
friends?
them.
Yes. The three of us back together for the first time in, well over two
Multiple
and a half weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are also closing in on the draft. We are taping April 8th. The draft is April 25th. The best way to get to it is just simply subtract 8 from 20. 17 days away.
Masterful.
Right?
Masterful numbers work by you.
My eyes actually are bothering me right now. I'm seeing some splotchiness. I did do a look up. Did not have the 3D glasses because didn't know anybody. Felt like first day of school. Today's episode, special one. It's an annual tradition on Around the NFL. Free agency, and it was a very strange free agency this year, or maybe it's the new normal. We'll have to see, but very aggressive. Teams are more aggressive this year. They got going earlier. Players that usually, the types of players are in some cases individuals. Jadeveon Clowney is a perfect example. Instead of lingering on the market into late summer, got scooped up in the first week or so of free agency.
The first time he signed a multi-year contract since his rookie contract. That is a fact.
So just like the way the machine worked was different this year. So the annual Graybeards exercise, which is pulling together the best roster of 30 and over talent, there's been a depreciation of talent in the pool. We're also doing a week later, although how many names came off the market in the last 7 days? It's
Not a ton.
It's a
but
different
I think
setup.
Kyle Van Noy is the only one we might have lost. That's
it.
literally it.
But coming up a little later, we're going to put together that Graybeards team and also just check in on, in general, notable names still on the market who can make your team better.
And this is the first time that you've allowed Greg and I wouldn't use the word allowed, although I
Right.
did, but like that we are part of the process, that we're pitching.
Yes. Yes, this is going to be a collaborative effort this year. We'll see how it goes.
I see what you're doing though, because it's going to potentially, but the names that are out there, it's going to be one of the most challenging seasons ever for the Graybeards.
Oh yeah,
They don't-
Dan looked at this list of players and said, "I need help."
Let's get Greg and Mark involved so we can point some fingers when
You're
when
working
they're
under the
0-6.
assumption that when I was in Maui,
Yes.
I looked at the list and I
Yes.
was like, "Phew, this is a little tougher this year. I'm going to call in some help."
That's
No,
exactly what I think you did.
That would be way too much credit.
It's actually a compliment
I
to
did.
you that Mark thinks you're this. I don't know.
I did not look at it
Maniacal.
beforehand, but I just thought this would be a good time to mix things up and see how it goes. And if the team, like last year's team, I predicted 6-11. They went 4-13. We'll see where this team comes down and where we go moving forward as a group or me again as an individual. We will see. But before that, let's do some news.
Well, Marvin Lewis is an idiot.
Before I went away on vacation,
That's an old sound drop.
yes, while you were in Hawaii, Greg, and by the way, what a state.
Great state.
Where is it in the top 50? I mean,
it was the last one to come in,
Yeah.
I believe. Was it after?
Oh,
last guy?
yeah.
I believe it was.
At the right time, it came.
what about
maybe-
Stewart's
maybe-
Icebox up there in Alaska? Pass.
Straight to number one. Straight to number one in terms of states.
Actually, our Alaskan listeners, I apologize.
Yeah, they don't have much to do. Like they would cling to a podcast in certain parts of the year, weather-wise, more than the other 49 states.
Beautiful in terms of nature up in Alaska We got the pipeline, so we got some guap coming out of there.
Important.
Also, territory-wise, close to Russia from a military perspective.
Yeah,
could be very valuable.
Right.
Yes, Sarah Palin famously, her lawn, looked out on.
She could see Russia from her front yard. But Hawaii, Aron. That's all I'm going to say. Mark, that's all.
Well, I'm glad the two of you enjoyed your lush getaways.
All right, let's get to the news. Oh, but what I was going to say was before I went on my vacation, we ended our podcast with Connor Orr after a very eventful week for the Around the NFL podcast with a Marc Sessler top 10 drops. And many people reached out to me angry that drop
Well, Marvin Lewis is an idiot.
was excluded. And I just want everyone to know that was an oversight by the board. I obviously would have had that very near the top had I realized it, but we didn't have it.
Yeah, I mean, quickly, that came off a mailbag question that came in just hours before the show, and you did, from another angle, a lot of work to compile what you did. I did. That is one of my more favorite self-drops. I will say there was a time that Marvin Lewis was actually in our green room. He was sort of being dipped into the network rounds a little, and I don't know.
It got a little uncomfortable after a while.
I would assume he'd never heard that in his life, except you never know how these things filter up, and he just gave me a weird look, and I kind of was like,
I feel like it's safe to say he was did not know about
Wait,
the job. But
I'm not walking around thinking he knew. It's just there was a weird interaction to begin with.
He is back in the league. He's assistant head coach of the Raiders. How about that?
That adds up.
Heavens to Betsy.
Let's move into the news, and let's start with, the big news that broke late last week. I was vaguely tracking it from a bungalow. Stefon Diggs got traded. Not really a surprise, but still huge news in the NFL when Diggs gets moved to, of course, the Houston Texans. And we have a little more details that have come out around the trade, which, of course, went for a 2025 second-round pick via the Vikings for Diggs, a sixth-round pick in 24 and a fifth-rounder in 25. So after the trade, Houston, Greggy, does some business with Diggs. They give him a raise, a straight-up raise. His previous base salary went from $18 to $22.5 million in guaranteed money, and importantly for Diggs, they also voided the final 3 years of his contract, which were going to cover 25, 26, 27. So he is now on essentially a prove-it deal at age 30 in a new environment, making a little bit more money. So as far as fresh starts go for Stefon Diggs, and considering the quarterback he's with, this sets up pretty well for him, and really both sides, because I know you guys already talked about this. But there's a non-zero chance that Diggs isn't a big-time player anymore, and the Texans in that case would probably want out after 1 year. That's the whole setup here.
Yeah, a lot of people had their takes on the Diggs trade, and we spent a lot of time talking about it. And then this news comes out a couple days later, and people adjusted their takes that it wasn't as good a move for the Texans, that it's essentially a 1 year deal. And I pushed back on that because, yes, he had a few years left on his contract before, but if he had played at a level that they hoped to get out of him this year, he would have been wanting more money right away because his base salaries were very low, and it would have became a whole thing between the two sides, and they're trying to avoid that. So I don't think it dramatically changes the move that much. I liked it before. I still like it now. And there's a very different thing, and the ESPN headline to it was, "We'll let him get to free agency." But that's not true. They have the franchise tag. They also have exclusive negotiating rights from basically now until next free agency, and that's a totally different situation than all the other teams. So if he does play well, they'll find a way to pay him, and if they don't, they'll franchise tag him. And a lot of angry Bills fans are like in my mentions being like, well, how do you he's not going to be happy if they franchise tag. It's just, why are you worried about all this stuff that is going to happen if it's a good outcome for the Texans? They'll figure it out, and if he doesn't work out, then he will be a free.
Yeah, we mentioned at the tail end of that conversation that this very well could have been a 1 year situation for Houston. And from that angle, like the money aside, we don't have to worry about the money. They've got the money. They can pay him. They can front load it all to this season and then see where they are a year from now. Because what I think a bad team does is turns around and gives Stefon Diggs a ton more money when we don't know what kind of player he is right now. It's a perfect fit for one season for a team that is, kicked open their Super Bowl window.
Right. And if he does kind of get the magic back and has a huge year with a great young quarterback, I would not even think about tagging the men and sitting on that tag because you're going to end up with an unhappy wide receiver, which has been the case in multiple spots for him. But that's best case scenario situation, because if you're going to want to put the tag on that man, he was the star that they think they're getting. By the way, speaking of money, Diggs has a lot of money. He's had a fantastic career, big time receiver. So he could do things like paying new teammate Jimmy Ward, the safety, $100,000 to get the number 1 jersey. So he moves from number 14 his whole NFL career to number 1, which he wore in college, and Ward goes back to number 20, which he already had previously worn with the Niners. So a cool 100 G's, Mark, gets you any number you want.
I wish that in the world that we work in, the media circle, that we had numbers and someone like some big shot could be hired by this place and like, oh, Mark, I want to take your number.
Let me give you a hypothetical.
I'll give you $200,000.
This is a little inside baseball for this particular studio, the Chris Wessling podcast studio. But famously, you struggle with the recording box that we plug our jacks into, our headsets into.
Yeah, to my right.
Infamously, you might say.
Yeah, it has been an ongoing source of tension since we moved here. How much would you pay, let's say, Greg, for his box? So you would switch boxes and never have to worry about that again. Would you pay?
Not even a cent.
Oh, really?
No.
But you talk so much about it.
Yeah, but
I'm giving you a ticket out.
Because then
Mark's sneaky cheap, you know.
Then it takes the onus off of management to correct the sound box.
Okay.
I'm still trying to strong arm them into paying attention to the situation.
My grandfather, Paul Hanzus, Elk of the Year, 89-90 in Pearl River, big deal. He, basically the Elks are like many other. What do you call those places?
Well, it's like
Social clubs.
Yeah.
Social clubs.
For
Thank you.
veterans, typically an Elks club would
Typically,
a men's
my
club.
grandfather was a World War II veteran, and we would occasionally, because my dad and my brother, or my uncle, my father's brother, Uncle Ed, because of Baba's, was his name, strong ties to the Elks, they kind of came into the Elks as well. They signed up for the Elks, and then occasionally we'd be taken to get drinks. Where we go to the bar, which is a wild scene. I can't even tell you everything that was going on at the Elks, okay? But it was wild. Long way to get to that all the veterans did at this bar, and I went in there a couple times when I was in college, was just call each other cheap the whole time. That's all it was. That was the only way these like 70-year-old men could communicate and bust balls, was just to go like, college, hey, alligator arms. Why don't you pay for a round? All right, T-Rex arms, and all sorts of terms and in that range. So what Greg said to you just now, Mark, triggered memories of the Elks. And I do agree that you are, in this case, showing a desire to stay away from your pocket.
No, I strongly disagree.
Little alligator arm action.
Who do you think most liberally?
Gecko arms. It's weird they just use variations of arms.
Who
It's
throws money around
that
town?
Kristen Wiig character on SNL.
Old
with the
sea
little
turtle
arm.
arms.
Who throws money around town? Like, at what order would you put the three of us in?
I would say, well, throw some money around town is kind of a wild term.
But just absurd
you are,
that you would think that's how I operate.
You are, in many ways, you're handing out a lot of money a lot of times in
that is
a lot
accurate.
of situations.
That is
Yeah.
accurate.
So, no, you're right. That was unfair. You really added the context that was necessary there.
I corrected you.
You did.
He was lucky.
I apologize.
Okay.
Stefon Diggs was lucky, but first of all, good job by Ward. I mean, holding out for $100K, that he kind of held his feet over the fire.
Right.
That's a lot of money. And I just checked. Jimmy Ward's made $55 million in his career.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not a-
Cheeky amount.
Really?
Right.
Diggs has made 136. He's been in the league a long time, Jimmy Ward. But he's lucky because Ward is not that popular of a player relatively. I don't think many people own those jerseys. And Kirk Cousins, brought up that he wasn't going to get number 8 from Kyle Pitts. We never circled back on this because he found out someone's got to buy all the Pitt jerseys that have been produced for sale to fans for him to turn it into Cousins jerseys, and that would have been hundreds of thousands of dollars. And Kirk was like, I just don't care that much about it, and neither did Kyle Pitts.
That doesn't seem fair.
They were just like, let's forget about it. It's fine. I'll wear 18.
I think it's like
What do
a
I
year
do?
or something.
Yeah, it's a year.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of Kyle Pitts jerseys out there.
Well,
Popular
Greg, what
player.
about all these players that switched to 0 or 2 or whatever? Like, were they yanked to do the same thing?
Yes.
Okay. Well, then, fine. Just stay consistent.
And I want to give Diggs a little credit because, sometimes he could be a pain for teams, but he's also a big-time player. Also, he had a chance when they did the whole switcheroo and let skill players get single-digit numbers to move to number 1 with the Bills, and he decided it wasn't fair to Bills Mafia, the fans that had his 14 jersey. So that's why he held off. It's a little pop for Diggs in a big spot.
Fair reporting.
Greg, do you have your Kyle Duggar jersey?
I don't. I only own one jersey ever. I think I've only owned one jersey, and it's a Troy Brown jersey. What that?
Nice. First jersey. Mine was Boomer Esiason, New York Jets. Got it from Santa, 93.
Bernie Kosar. Although I would not say it was one of those official. It was like I was a child. It wasn't like one of those like $180 official ones. It was
My parents
knockoff.
were not getting me a jersey. It never happened.
Yeah.
They're like, that's too much.
Well, not the official one, but you could get the ones.
Get a T-shirt.
You could get. I mean, it couldn't have been too hard scrabble. Like you could get the jersey was like $35 or something.
You're like a B- version. Right. It didn't have the.
You didn't get the
double
official
knitting and all this
150
other stuff.
one.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Anyway, Kyle Duggar. The Patriots continue to light up the imagination of the football public. They signed the safety to a 4-year, $58 million contract. The deal is worth up to $66 million, includes $32.5 fully guaranteed. He's 28 years old, but just at the end of his rookie contract. So he came into the league a little later. But Greggy, a lot of, and I just did it a little bit too, a little bit of snarkiness around the Patriots offseason about how many of their in-house guys they're locking up, considering there's just no buzz and energy around the team the last couple of years. But it logically, you keep your guys that are good, and then you got to find a way to supplement that with fresh blood.
I look at the method that Ron Wolf used to use, Elliot Wolf's father, and then certainly Ted Thompson and Brian Gutekunst with the Packers. And this is what they did. And it's just a coincidence that the few good young players on the Patriots roster, and there's not a ton, happen to all come up for free agency this year. So I think it was smart. They kept him. They kept Onwenu. Who am I forgetting that they also...
Hunter
Henry, not a younger player, but worth keeping around. And they're probably going to have to pay Christian Barmore at some points. I'm fine with it.
They do have they have a solid secondary. So it's like you don't want to have that be torn down on top of it all.
Their defense looks good on paper. I mean, their defenses are unpredictable, but on paper they have a top 10 defense.
But they haven't had.
They were a top 10 defense last year.
They haven't had a Q rating this low since like the, mid 90s or like pre-Parcells Patriots.
No, there's not a lot to get excited about in terms of the moves they made offensively. Just bringing players back.
The news wasn't all bad for the Panthers last season. It was mostly bad. But there was a breakout player in Derek Brown, the defensive tackle, who really thrived under Ejiro Evero.
Pound it.
In the 3-4 scheme. He set a Panthers record for tackles by a lineman. He is a big-time run-stop stud. So what did the Panthers do? They said, that's a guy we want to keep in our building. So he agrees to a 4-year contract extension. The team announced on Friday. It's a $96 million deal. Market includes over $63 million guaranteed. That per year average of $24 million puts him in the top 5 for a defensive tackle. So you're paying him as an elite player. I don't have mega takes about Derek Brown, whether he deserves to be in that class, but perhaps you do.
I would say that like he from a physical perspective, he is a dominant, gigantic human being. And this is a team with no first-round pick. You moved on from Brian Burns, DJ Moore. Yetur Gross-Matos goes to San Francisco. It's like, at some point, Carolina Panthers, you've got to do what the Patriots just did. Keep one of your foundational guys when you're running a 3-4 scheme. Like, no-brainer to me.
These nose tackles or defensive tackles, closest thing we have to nose tackles, like a run-stopping defensive tackle, take a little time to develop. He reminds me a ton of Dexter Lawrence, who the first year or two, Giants fans and Panthers fans talking about Dexter Lawrence and Derek Brown are like, man, we used a pretty high pick on like a plugger. And then they get older and they get tougher, and suddenly they're the best players in the league at their position. So it's a defensive tackle, I don't know explosion in terms of the money that was been out there the last couple of years between Chris Jones and Wilkins and Madubuike and even Jeffrey Simmons, Deron Payne, and Brown fits right in as one of the best players at the position.
Jordan Mailata, in other news. The International Pathway Program.
It's on fire.
Thriving.
Yeah.
Thriving. We talked about the new Chiefs potential playmaker added to the
More
fold.
like a highway than a pathway at this point.
A highway paved solely by Henry Hodgson.
With gold.
And in a handsome manner by Henry. The IPP program is a method being employed by the league to get more players in international markets trained up, exposed to the game, giving them opportunities, and when you hit on one of these players, man, look, Greggy, look at. I'm rewatching the which I highly recommend sports fans, because we all watched it during the pandemic. We were all kind of in a drugged state in a way. Some of us literally, some of us just the whole thing. You remember 2020 in a hazy manner. The Last Dance, the Jordan doc, rewatching it with my sons. It's a little salty, the language in parts, but overall they're fascinated by this Jordan figure who's like Babe Ruth for these kids. The Dream Team opened the doors for international play for the NBA. And now, like, Greg, you follow the NBA closer than either Mark or I. Like, the percentage of, like, star players in the NBA, what is it, like 30 or 40% are from overseas now?
The last handful of MVPs, yes, Giannis and then Luka's on first team NBA, yes.
It's a totally different league now than it was 30 years ago. Jordan Mialata is the shining star of this international movement, a left tackle that the Eagles drafted as a 7th-round pick. He had very little experience with football as a sport, but had the tools, and then they got him trained up, and he learned the game and became a dominant tackle at one of the game's most important positions. So he gets paid a extension that is 3 years, $66 million. He remained a top-level tackle last season. He hasn't been, Greg, seen by people who vote for things. He's never been a Pro Bowler. That surprised me.
That threw me too.
Never been an All-Pro. But anyone you talk to, the Baldies of the world, say nothing but big-time positive things about Mialata, so another no-brainer to keep in your building.
A PFF star, too, always in the top 5, 6.
What gives?
Left
What's with the Mialata bias?
Maybe people were just like, we're giving too many Eagle offensive linemen these awards because,
what if it's a Hodgson bias?
Kelsey and Lane Johnson,
Handsome Hank bias,
have dominated it. You're right. Sometimes offensive linemen, people are a year or two behind. Now they're really behind on Mialata, where they get the Pro Bowls a little later than you expect. Kelsey and Johnson, by the way, starred at WrestleMania over the weekend. Showed up.
Did see that.
Made a little.
Kelsey was very involved.
Made a little attention. I mean, these guys, they got so much talent. Jordan Mailata's also famously a great voice. Did a bang-up job on the Kelsey Christmas album, and also a great around the NFL guest. Remember that?
Yeah, our Super Bowl.
He was legitimately a great guest. In fact,
I legitimately
we should get him back on the show.
we should try.
His hand.
I think Henry can help us with that.
His hand was as big as any of our computer screens. That's what I recall.
But most of your analysis today, Mark, is just based on the sheer size of the humans involved.
He was a stunning, because you get us, and then you got Derrick Henry came on that same week, and Mialata, and it's just like, oh, these are gigantic people, and I'm done with these group
It is
photos.
in general,
where I look 5'8".
When we do these remote shows and we have the guests on, Mark does not like to be next to the giant player, typically.
I enjoyed meeting them and stuff, but it's like that's not a winning photo op, in my opinion, where it's like, oh, you're 4 feet shorter than this defensive tackle.
We should start photoshopping the photos and make you taller than whoever's there.
Stupid.
Very subtly.
Myles Garrett was a tough scene for
I couldn't even speak that day. I think he thought I was from another planet.
anyone. This is why the Eagles stay good, though, is they get ahead of things on these contract extensions. They also paid Landon Dickerson this offseason. So not only did they bring in a lot of people, and you think, okay, Kelsey's retiring. Is it going to be a big transition for this offensive line? And they've planned ahead pretty well. They draft Cam Jurgens. They have a 3rd-round pick, Tyler Steen, who's ready to go. It's like they just invest over and over and over. And that's why for them, a bad season is 9-7 or falling apart late to go 11-6. Whereas, for most teams, the bad season is the New England Patriots. What happened to the last?
Yes, but the future of the tush push remains enigmatic.
Yes. I love that for the Eagles.
How the Eagles stay good. The football cognoscenti
Pay those big guys.
Ability to completely wash the end of last season from memory is
I just mean on
astounding
a
to me.
relative scale, their strategy is clearly pay for linemen.
I
both
agree with
sides
you.
of the ball, and that's worked in the long run.
I agree with what you're saying overall, but that was a historic meltdown.
Yeah.
I know we're supposed to now turn the page and everything's fine again, but I still have questions.
It has been
don't
pushed
have
from
to.
memory. It has been pushed from memory, I think, a little bit. And I'm with you.
People don't
because
like it.
You still have the same head coach, and people are talking about, the personality there. And Dan
Eagles
was on
fans
that.
don't like it.
No, of course not.
That's why we need you, Dan, to be the truth teller from now until week 1 that they're going to stink, and you don't believe in them.
Here's the thing. I'm not even saying that.
Well,
but it seems as if
something.
We've decided. No, we've decided that didn't happen anymore. So if I have to be the person that say like, oh, the Eagles have done it again. Oh, this is how the good stay good. And like, oh man, the Eagles are killing to this offseason. Someone has to say they also had one of the most unbelievable collapses in recent NFL history, and they kept the coach and they kept the quarterback. And they're running it back again.
I don't think it would be fair to suggest that you're the only person in media saying that they didn't melt down.
Go find it. Go find it anywhere on the internet. It has been scrubbed.
I will take a look after the show.
You know who did it? That Bradley Cooper.
Yeah.
With his charm, he wiped it all. Him and Lurie working together.
It was a tough winter for Cooper. The Eagles fall apart in the same way that his Oscar hopes in that movie.
Has there ever been a more like bald-faced attempt to win an Oscar? Cooper, get back to what you're good at. Get out of the luxury suite. All right. Now I've got to
stop.
Did anybody see that film?
I watched it.
How was it?
I think I mentioned this on one of our suggest something that you've watched.
Right. We're not giving you a trophy because you got a fake nose on, bro.
I openly could not stand it, but then I thought about it a lot afterwards.
All right.
It made me think, and it was a very strange, but it felt like Oscar bait to me, which has worked for him in the past. We know that much about him.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we still talking about him?
I don't know. Did you guys talk about the Jets getting Hassan Reddick? That was a nice move.
I thought we were very fair in our coverage of that and praised them.
I think it led the show.
Nice. All right, 8 o'clock delight. The Chiefs re-signed Mike Dana to a big deal. You know who else? Clyde Edwards-Helaire returns. Greg, I have to say, CEH coming back is one of the more the underdog tales of the first round.
Well, no one.
I thought there was no chance he would ever get a second contract.
I don't think there was a lot of interest in him, and I gotta say, he did make some plays in the stretch run. He only was given the ball like 3 to 5.
Did anyone ever see more DOA as a first-round pick after 2 years ago?
When they were telling you to draft him first overall in fantasy as a rookie.
Took him a number 11 overall. Anyway, the voters shoot down the stadium bill, by the way, for the Royals and the Chiefs, which tough spot for the Chiefs, who coming up back-to-back titles probably thought they'd get that bump. They did not, so there's a lot of uncertainty around that situation.
It got blown away, too. It wasn't close, and I think it's tough for civic groups of people to suggest they're going to pay for these things at this point.
It's old news now. It used to be the way it was. Draft prospect Devondre Sweat gets a DWI. My goodness. It made me think of Dak Prescott getting a DWI 2 days after his pro day. He dropped down to the 4th round. Let's see what happens with Sweat, who was supposed to be a first or second rounder. The Colts re-signed Julian Blackmon. The Dolphins signed Taylor Tart. And Kyle Van Noy goes back to the Ravens, Greggy.
3 players that were in my top 101, and there's only 3 left total in the top 50.
Woof. Segue.
Yeah.
Up next, Graybeards. Graybeards, we're gonna save the day. Graybeards, just give us one last say. We're here today, gone tomorrow. Will you watch or follow? Age don't mean I cannot play. You will see me lead the way. Graybeards never go away. Never go away. Never go away. Graybeards never fade away. There goes my The Graybeards are back.
Yeah.
We've been doing this exercise how many years now? 10 years?
Decade.
How many times have I been singing that song? What a song.
It's getting better.
It's like what I'm hoping for is the Mariah Carey Christmas song bump where it just charts every year
Yeah.
around the same time.
Who is your greatest influence as a vocalist?
Dave Grohl, maybe, but maybe Grohl adjacent. So let's go Pearl Jam, a little Eddie Vedder. I've gotten one of your favorite bands, The National.
Sure.
I've gotten that
Nice
in the past. Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't bring Gregg in for some sort of a singing role there because Gregg is a renowned former singer.
That's true. And in fact, last year, I think you might have had the last line. And I apologize for taking that from you this year.
I think you've done it the right way. Now, I do think, now that I'm a member of the organization, the controversy
let's get into it.
That we've had over the last year, the Graybeards, that many groups were saying you should play that song and the national anthem at your games, and I say no. This has replaced the national anthem.
Yes.
For the Graybeards, this is their anthem.
Yes, you have said that before, and I'm glad that you've said it again. This year is a real tough one because, like I said at the top of the show, teams have been more aggressive, and as a result, when you look through the list, and you guys, like we said earlier, changed it up this year. I used to write this as an article on the site. Now we're just talking it out as a group and going through it, and we're going to land on some things together. Perhaps if you guys, maybe I could serve as a bit of a tiebreaker in certain situations, but in general, I'd like us to kind of build this team together. It's not going to be easy because there's not a lot on the bone, not a lot of meat on the bone. And I want to say one other thing before we get going, that this has always been, yes, the players from the Graybeards have to be either over 30 or turning 30 before the Super Bowl. I am like the NFL. The NFL makes changes to their product every year, and I've been resistant to ever change the Graybeards process, but you have to go with the times. Because of the lack of options, because of the way the NFL views skill position players.
Wow.
Especially running backs, where 30 is basically the retirement home. But that's not necessarily what this is about. When they get to that second contract around 28, I was thinking that's when running backs, wide receivers, we'll throw tight ends in there as well. So I'm changing the guidelines for those three position groups.
Okay.
Or I could just keep it to wide receivers and running backs. Let's do that. 28 at some point in the season, it makes you a Graybeard because that's really the way the league is now. Greg.
I don't think this is going to change my picks much at all. It was to me it's just there aren't many free agents available, whether they're 28 or not. I do think it's gonna mess up how the song goes. That it'll be like they're over 30, except for running back and tight end, which are 28.
You're gonna work on that.
Give me a chance to work with it lyrically and find a melody to work
I think also,
with that.
to be fair, it's inclusive because we've always had that friend in their 20s who suddenly had white hair or, when they went gray or white much earlier and they probably feel not part of society in some way. And this says you are part of this operation.
I don't know who these 28-year-olds are, so I'm curious who you threw out.
It didn't change the list.
Much for me, yeah.
In terms of like an earthquake level.
And I'll just real quick, because usually I look back at the Graybeards the year before, and as I usually say before we get into it, there are players that are available now to any team that will play a big role for teams in the upcoming season. And that is true. But I'm looking at last year's team, and you didn't see a lot of that. So last year, I'll just go real quick. At quarterback, we had Wentz and Bridgewater. At running back, McKinnon and Latavius Murray. At wide receiver, Odell, Jarvis Landry, Julio Jones, and T.Y. Hilton. At tight end, Mercedes Lewis and Cameron Brate.
Who's 40.
If you really want to know, the line was Donovan Smith, Roger Saffold, Ben Jones, Gabe Jackson, and Taylor Lewan. On defense, I'm really hurting David Clowney not being a Graybeard. He has been a Graybeard more than he's not been a Graybeard in his career. Last year was Clowney, Leonard Floyd, Frank Clark, and Justin Houston. I mean, these are name brands that you're just not going to see in a lot of cases this year. Somehow Ndamukong Suh was on our interior line last year. Quentin Jefferson, Shelby Harris, Matthew Ioannidis, Anthony Barr, Marcus Goldman, John Bostic at linebacker. Feels like some of these guys are already ancient history. They never got that chance as Graybeards. And then in the secondary, Marcus Peters, Bryce Callahan, Byron Jones, William Jackson. Robbie Gould was the kicker.
Wow.
He retired. Andy Lee at punter. So that was last year's team. I didn't hear a lot of guys that actually had big years from that list. If you guys can throw any, do you hear any there that?
Their names, they didn't have big years though.
Clowney had a good year.
Oh, Clowney did.
did one of his best years.
Yes.
Actually.
Donovan Smith, started the Super Bowl at left tackle, so that was an effect.
Sue did a lot of Sky
Signing.
Sports coverage.
The offensive line and the defensive line was doable.
All right.
Wait, who was the quarterback last year?
Quarterback.
Was Wentz
And let's start there.
Bridgewater.
So Wentz and Bridgewater. Joe Flacco was out there. Isn't that crazy? He was out there, was not even selected for a fake football team. So let's start with the quarterback position this year because it is not in a great spot, Greggy. I think we all agree Ryan Tannehill, age 35, is a perfect guy to slot in. First time graybeard.
Yeah.
So welcome to the team. But thank God Tannehill didn't get signed in the last week or so because where are we going if Tannehill goes down? He's had injury issues.
So you'd have to go to like Blaine Gabbert, Trevor
Oof.
Simeon. So yes, there's a steep. We do need to keep him healthy.
Teddy Bridgewater, I think, is familiar with my appreciation of him over the years. He's known as a leader, a coach. He's becoming a high school coach.
Mhm.
I would be willing to offer him even more money than that high school could possibly be giving
To bring him back.
to bring him back as a backup and coach. Maybe he can.
I mean, he
can
was
start
giving
coaching.
interviews
That
about,
seems like it's breaking the rules, though.
like, here's the thing. And
Yeah,
I,
and he's 3 years
we all
younger
love
than
Teddy,
Tannehill.
but Teddy was giving interviews to the Detroit media in like early December saying like how excited he was to leave the NFL.
Right.
And he was like, dude, you're the backup quarterback. I think he's going on to a different
Yeah.
phase in his life. I kind of threw out Brian Hoyer because he is a good locker room
Okay.
dude, but I mean, he can't play anymore either. It's very rough.
We'll take Hoyer as the backup, I think, over.
Do we have backups, or we just? Cause
yeah,
I-
we
I like-
need backup.
I believe in Tannehill. I think he provides
Oh.
the right kind of spark for this.
Locked and loaded
Start
QB1,
here. Yeah.
maybe one of the best QB1s we've had in this exercise. Isn't it also crazy that Blaine Gabbert is 34 years old now?
Well, a lot of these names would make all the three of us feel
and he's been
much older than we want.
replaced by last year's graybeard Carson Wentz, so that might spell the end of Gabbert's.
Although he
career
was
in
with the
NFL.
Chiefs, and if Andy Reid thought he was a sound backup or a good option, should we perhaps go with Blaine as the backup?
Bruce Arians.
Well, the
loved him.
reason they wanted him there apparently was because Mahomes especially was obsessed with Tom Brady and just wanted like Tom Brady's backup to like, that was part.
Do
part
we
of
want that?
it. I mean, there's worse.
What do you guys
reasons.
think?
There's worse reasons. I'm a little worried too. Tannehill.
That's a really weird explanation, but
Well, it was part of it. They just thought like, he was around him for a couple
like
years.
they
It
called
was
Drew
in that-
Bledsoe first, and they're like, Drew, you want to be my backup this year? So, all right, should I put in Blaine?
Tannehill also had some rough moments last year, but
Yeah, behind a terrible offensive
some
line.
other games where he looked better.
All right,
Yeah, let's put Gabbert. He's a handsome guy too.
very good looking. He'll pop in the team photo. All right, running back. So this is where again I had to make
Okay.
that change. It changes things because Ezekiel Elliott is in his age 28 season. A lot of rumors connecting him going back to Dallas, or it's being floated out there by certain people. What are you laughing about? We could call this the Zeke rule if we want.
Yeah,
Like, that's what it is in
it's
a lot of
funny
ways.
that you changed the rule to get Zeke on, although he does feel like a graybeard, and I think he literally does have.
Is
gray
he?
hair.
Is it gray in
I
it?
think he has some gray in it. I just assumed he was over 30 without checking,
I
so
know.
that's why I'm laughing.
A lot of miles.
I
on old Zeke.
wrote his name down without even checking.
Yeah, we got the original age boundary.
Right.
Clipped him, and it clipped guys like Kareem Hunt, Dalvin Cook. But I guess now all these people are back in the conversation.
It's funny because I had the same two guys we had a year ago.
Yeah, same.
Latavius
initially.
Murray and Jarek McKinnon. I'm like, okay, we can
that's
get by
interesting.
with that.
So
We
I
can get by
had
with those guys.
I said Zeke and Kareem Hunt.
But we're gonna lose.
Hunt
I
ran
think we're gonna
pretty
lose
well.
Zeke in a couple weeks. That's the one problem here, right?
No, once they're
Oh,
a
you're on,
graybeard,
you're
they're a
on.
graybeard forever.
Okay, cool.
That's an important distinction that I always have to lay out there.
Okay.
So you're saying you think that, but you also listen.
All right, I'm gonna put up a stop sign on Kareem Hunt. He looked
Okay,
woeful
He
last
did
year.
some things.
He also had his
Browns.
off-field issues. For a fake team, we can keep Kareem Hunt and his three yards per carry off the list. He did not look like the
All
same
right.
Kareem Hunt to me a year ago. It looked like he might have suddenly
Can I-
kind of hit the cliff.
I'm fine with that. We can let Kareem walk. I will say, just because you're being very analytical, and that's important,
Yeah.
Greg. You're looking at it's not as Wes always said. It's not just about the name; it's the game.
Yeah.
But we also we got to put some meat in the seats. That's
Yeah, but Kareem Hunt's not.
no, I'm saying
We got
that's why
Zeke.
Zeke. I
Zeke's
want
good.
Zeke on the roster.
Oh,
know
I
what?
get that. I get that.
Yeah.
He's on the ticket. He's on the
Meat in
stadium
the
ticket.
seats.
Like a
Mark,
lot
that's
of,
those are
um,
buttocks in the chairs.
Like a lot of sad Patriots fans, I will defend the Zeke era in New England that I'm sure people weren't like. He obviously doesn't have the greatest explosiveness ever now, but he was okay. I think I think he's doing okay. He's perfect for this team.
Wait, so we are pairing Zeke with someone else, though, right?
Yes.
I would lobby for Jerick McKinnon.
Okay, so Greg said that too. So let's roll with that.
Good.
And and these guys
He can also tell us about what it's like to win a Super Bowl
That matters.
multiple times.
Yeah, that's true. Here are some other options. So we said Zeke, Boston Scott, Damian Harris just retired. Cam Akers, not eligible. He's only 24. Whoa. Dare Agunbowale. Poor J.K. Dobbins is out there still, but just 25. Matt Breida is an option for us. Rashad Penny is an option for us.
He's got to be under 30 as well.
He is,
28.
but I like what we've cooked up here.
Latavius Murray is 34.
Latavius Murray has had a strange career where he never seems to age and always like is better than the younger people around him. But I like what.
So Jerick makes the
J.K.
Graybeards
Dobbins, by the
back-to-back
way,
years.
is a guy I would be intrigued about as an NFL team. I know he's coming off a
right.
serious injury, but I think he'd be worth a shot.
All right, wide receiver. Here we go. A lot of options. We're going to lead with someone who was a Graybeard last year for the first time. And again, meet in the seats. You need somebody on the cover of the media guide. It is Odell Beckham Jr. once again leading the wide receiver group. Anybody disagree with that?
Well, I don't disagree, but according to the rule that he's on. I would say yes, absolutely. You want to sell the tickets. Children and adults alike would be fascinated by the concept. He's linked very heavily to the Dolphins right now.
Would children be into it? It's been a long time since the catch at the
I
Meadow.
think you could sell Odell Beckham.
Walker's pretty into Odell.
Kids.
He still sort of has a
There's a je
thing.
ne sais quoi with Odell.
in the catch, and there's some highlights you can go back. But yeah, him and Tannehill, it's a bigger picture of Odell. It's like he's got the big face, and then Tannehill's maybe a second face.
Yeah.
That's the
turning
cover.
the other way.
I think that's the cover of
like
your guide because that's a real quarterback people know. But Odell's
Remember those in the 80s? They would do the family pictures where it'd be the profile of the child's head and then the pose of them together, like holding blocks.
They do that with like people and their cats. Like there's a second circle where the cat is looking in a different direction.
We got Big Funk behind the glass who, the stuff this guy can do in the edit is remarkable.
It's phenomenal.
I thought you were going to talk about his cats because there's not an animal that Randy Chavez is not taking care of in the entire animal planet.
I'm not talking about cats, but we can have a separate, let's save it for the feline podcast. Randy, if you know, we'll talk about it off mic, but we want the old 1983 perspective shot. And then that's kind of in the distance. Maybe it's a little phased out a little bit. Like it's not as clear. And then in the foreground, it's some type of like action shot, something like that. Okay.
Good.
Anyway, Odell, I'm going to throw out Tyler Boyd, who's 29 years old. You guys think about Tyler Boyd?
Well, I think this rule is, I don't know why this rule exists if we don't use it to get the younger player that still has upside.
I thought he turns 30 during the season, so you don't even need the rule.
He's good either way.
Solid.
The Zeke rule.
Maybe coming off his worst year, but he still had 667 yards in that year. It just seemed like maybe the contract situation was bothering me. He did some mental errors, some drops.
Well, we don't love that though.
But a nice slot receiver. I mean, I think this is our strongest position group on the team.
He has upside. There's
I like
upside
him.
here.
And I think we got to add a little spice to this mix
Go ahead.
too. I think we got to bring in Michael Thomas. It's time.
I have him
Come
too.
home. Come home to the Graybeards.
Yeah,
A little bit of a locker room lawyer.
Yeah.
We want a locker room lawyer in the building.
It's a fresh start though. And there is this like, what if he stays healthy and he doesn't have this 18th
This
toe
media
injury?
guide's not looking too bad, by the way.
No,
we have the guy that has the catch record. We have Zeke was one of the most famous, NFL players of the previous decade.
Yeah.
We have Ryan Tannehill.
Carried multiple episodes of Hard Knocks.
That's true.
on his
And
back.
also, when you get Ryan Tannehill, you get Lauren Tannehill as well.
You do? Yep. I would say especially for, fans that have been in a coma for 2.5, 3 years, like this looks like an all-star.
I would push back in terms of the locker room lawyer aspect.
What?
I think we're looking forward to 2024, 2025. Social media is key.
Yeah.
If things go wrong, he'll keep, all attention is good attention. And I think Michael Thomas will keep us in the news.
Right. I don't like that Saints element bringing it into my building, but I understand Thomas is someone that you want to bank on, maybe giving you a little. And he's a name brand, so I'm with you. I'm just a little worried about it. That's
Just
all.
lean into the
We
marketing
need good
side of
coaching. We
this.
need a strong base in terms of leadership. All right. I'm gonna add a fourth receiver here. I know
yeah.
Thomas we're going to put in the slot, but I also like Hunter Renfrow in the slot here.
See, now you're using the age rule for what reason?
What do you mean?
Although he has been balding for a long time.
He's older than you think. Like he's just under the line there.
His hairline was hurting on Hard Knocks as a rookie. So yes, he'll fit in visibly, but also I know you waged a war against Renfrow early in his career, Greg, and then he fell out of favor with the Raiders. It felt like the last couple of years, but he's still this is his age 28 season. I'm gonna put him up. Is there someone else that you guys want to drop?
I want MVS on this team. I think we got the slot handled with Boyd and Thomas. I want some speed. It's pretty rare to have a Graybeard with some deep speed. He's quiet all season, but in the non-existent playoffs that the Graybeards have never made,
well, this team is not making
he comes up big in the playoffs.
MVS, what do you think, Mark?
Very frustrating player, but that's not going to be on like 3/4 of our roster, so that fits right in.
You MVS over Renfrow for you?
Well, Renfrow, you also have to bend the rules.
I thought Renfrow was already in, and we were picking our one.
No, I was pushing.
We have Odell,
Sterling
Tyler
Shepard
Boyd,
is out there, but
Michael Sterling Shepard.
I don't know. Like it gets ugly. Marquise Goodwin. I'll go MVS. I just find him
all right.
frustrating.
I'm okay with that.
You know who actually had this? I think it was the second highest percentage of snaps of any available wide receiver free agent that was over 30 was Allen Robinson. I was like, wow, Allen Robinson played a lot for the Steelers last year, but I do not feel like bringing in Allen Robinson.
Allen Robinson is not on this team.
No.
He can't.
Julio Jones caught a pass in the playoffs last year. Do you remember that?
35 years old.
For the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah.
It's a thing that happened.
Yeah. He was Graybeard last year. Randall Cobb is out there.
No.
You know who else is out there? Now, not Graybeard eligible even under the Zeke rule, but Chase Claypool is not employed anymore. And I don't know if he's going to get employed anytime soon. Like he might be in the what's the Fakakta Spring League called it now? UFL?
Yeah.
Like he might have to go reestablish the brand at this point. And to think that the Bears surrendered a second-round pick for him 2 years ago is crazy.
That gets washed away in the current hype.
I went to confirm that Julio Jones caught a pass. He caught 3 passes in the playoffs. If
Hell yeah.
you're wondering how far that Eagles offense fell.
All right. Do we have to take a break? We're due for a break. All right, let's take a break, and then we'll get through the rest of the Graybeards roster. All right. So far so good, I have to say. I mean, when you look at the offense, now let's get to tight end. There are some options here. The one that kind of jumps out to me is Logan Thomas, 32 years old.
I'm with you.
Yep.
Siju Uzama is coming off a bad knee injury. He is on the market. Bobby Tonyan's out there.
How do the real health situations factor into this?
They factor in.
Okay.
They
Well,
factor in.
I love Logan Thomas as an option. Been productive throughout his career.
Do we want Jimmy Graham on that media
coming off
guide?
an injury. We keep bringing back Mercedes Lewis, and so does the NFL. He's now 40. To have a 40-year-old Graybeard,
Pretty cool.
pretty exciting.
I'd Lewis
We can put him on the coaching staff.
notch with Jimmy Graham though. I think Jimmy Graham is better for the media guide.
Does Jimmy Graham put meat in the seats? I don't know at this stage. He does.
He did release a.
Any of these guys?
He had an Instagram post a few weeks ago that seemed to sound retirement-ish. Just kind of like, hey, the end of the season was quick. Didn't get a chance to thank everyone for like a fun year in New Orleans.
Okay.
I think Logan Thomas and I like Mercedes Lewis as their backup. Just like
Is he turning 40 this year?
Yeah.
He's 40
He
now.
actually is 40.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's special.
I think that has a nice get some think pieces and some nice.
He was
press
literally
around that.
drafted with
That's good.
Maurice Jones-Drew.
I know. MJD is always talking
something.
about him. MJD says he's still a player in the league. It's cute. Let's see. Kicker. Man, I really wish I could put Robbie Gould on here, but I think he retired, didn't he?
I don't think he fits for this. Like if someone didn't even
he didn't
exist
play last
season.
year. But has he filed his paperwork? I'm just asking questions, as one must.
I'm sure he did. I think we talked about it.
I think you're right. Big boned Randy is out there.
Oh yeah.
Now
We have a special
there's
feeling
a bond
towards
with
him.
Big Bone.
Yeah.
I don't like him as a kicker.
Well,
And his Zaftig figure, I like. I relate to it. I feel like it's something he battles, but he also has now been kicking for about 10 years. He's getting the full pension. And this is a way to say, you've battled through a lot of adversity. Come on in.
Like your other options are like what Brett Maher. Like I'm with you. Like Fat Randy's been or
Whoa,
Randy
hey.
Bullock.
Whoa,
That's-
whoa.
That's what the nickname was. I didn't come up
Back
with
in
that.
the day.
Not
And then,
on
you
our
know,
show.
To be fair, he's slimmed down. He's gone up and down over the
Yeah.
years.
Now that I'll have to see him in the hallways, inside the team complex, I would probably shy away from calling him that.
It's also a connection to Chris
Should.
Chris Wesseling.
What's up, Fat Randy?
I feel like he had a lot of opinions about Randy Bullock back in the day.
Who, Wes?
Yeah, Wes.
He got a
He did.
kick out of his
Yeah.
figure. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's Rubenesque, and I like that. That's good. I think it's important for our team to embrace all body types as well.
It's
I
a
think
good message. to
Body
send.
inclusive is a big thing now. So welcome, Randy. All right, punter.
I don't know about you guys, but I was like literally looking for punters. Like I
There is
at
not
some
a
point the search stopped.
As far as I can tell, there is not a punter who punted the ball in the NFL last year that is a free agent that is over 30.
Yeah, but how about this? We
I
don't
did
punt.
the
We don't
research.
punt. We don't punt. That's you could get
That's-
fans involved with
I
that
c-
one.
I could be like searching it wrong, but I don't think so. I don't think there is an available punter
I have an
somehow
idea.
that had a punt. Presley Harvin, again, body diversity inclusive, but he's quite young. The Steelers cut him.
But if you go
He's
to like Spot
26
Track,
or so.
Over
Yeah.
the Cap, all these sites, they
No.
don't list one of these punters.
There is not a punter.
I'll throw one out there. Sean Landetta.
Okay.
What did I literally write on my screen?
What?
Sean Landetta, who's 62.
Okay, let's do it.
Dan, that's how legends are made when you're team building. We both have Sean Landetta, written down before the
This
show.
is why I was pointing out to Mark last week that it was tough for him when Dan's out of the state.
Sean Landetta, 62.
We both thought of Sean Landetta. Somewhere, Poppy is smiling on the brown couch, drinking his root beer, not talking to me. All right, Sean Landetta, welcome to the Graybeards. Hopefully he's staying in shape. All right, offensive line.
We'll keep an eye on the waiver wire in case anyone loses a job in camp elsewhere. 'cause
I'm going to throw out just what I projected the line, and if you guys want to replace anyone, I'm totally open to it. Right tackle, Billy Turner. Right guard, Cody Whitehair. Center, Connor Williams. Left guard, DJ Fluker. And bringing in David Bakhtiari is a perfect graybeard at left tackle.
Oh, I
So-
forgot about
I had
that.
Bakhtiari, Connor Williams as well.
Well, Connor Williams is like 27.
Yeah, no, that's why. Well, no,
is
he's-
he?
Yeah,
Wait, hang
he's
on.
young.
Hold on.
Oh, okay. Get rid of Connor.
Yeah, he's 26.
He's a.
Yeah.
I thought he was. Oh no, I'm thinking. No, hold on.
There's multiple
Connor
Connors and
McGovern. Connor McGovern is only 30, and the
I like to
33
avoid
rated
anybody
center
that's
from a
played
year ago.
offensive line for the New York Jets in the last 3 years. I like
Really?
to-
Because I actually had Laken Tomlinson maybe as one of my guards. The tackle position might be the best on the roster. I take it back from the receiver. Andrews Pete played quite well late last season at left tackle for the Saints.
Typically a guard, but yeah.
Typically a guard, so you could play him at guard or tackle, but I'm a little surprised he's still out there. And then Donovan Smith, I mean, he wasn't lighting it up, but he did, start for the Super Bowl champs and most of the season for the
he stepped in for him.
He was okay.
Yeah.
No, he was there all year.
Oh, yeah, right. I'm thinking
And
of
then
right tackle.
Yeah, he left. He was injured, and then he came back. So who did you have as your left tackle before?
I had
Bakhtiari
Bakhtiari.
is good, though. I like
Yeah,
I think he's
like
just-
that too. That's
like
that's
he
a
might
name.
be
He's
That's,
putting me in the seat.
that's name. That's a name brand.
People are like,
Yeah.
they want to know what's next in his journey.
I think it's the draft that's keeping these guys out there because compared to other positions, I was like Charles Leno's another one. I was like, a number of these guys could actually play meaningful NFL snaps in the fall, and I don't see that at many positions.
Do we want to
where there is like 5 or 6 tackles out.
do we want to kick Donovan Smith to right tackle?
I think it's that type of versatility that we're looking
Sure.
for.
What who we put in the pivot?
I guess Bakhtiari, but he hasn't stayed healthy too often,
No, bro, the pivot center.
I think
Oh,
Connor
okay.
McGovern
I
is
thought
only
You got to
30.
get in the terminology if you're going to be a true front office head.
Connor McGovern was PFF's 33rd ranked
I was
center.
the
and he's
pivot.
30.
I wasn't listening as closely as I should have.
Lucas Patrick.
One of my favorite tropes of people talking ball, like how about the pivot. Who's in the pivot?
Okay, let's put Pete in at guard.
All
And
right.
we got Bakhtiari and
Get rid of Fluker.
Donovan Smith at tackle.
Yeah, Fluker's gone.
All right, so we'll put Andrews Pete. These guys,
And then
Yeah,
Cody
he's 30 years
Whitehair
old,
you had.
too.
I like that.
Cody at right guard, and then who's in the pivot?
There weren't many.
I think Connor McGovern.
All right.
He's 30 years
I
old
looked
and he
at
was.
Lucas Patrick. I looked at a man, Tyler Shatley, just for the name.
We clearly were.
The quarterback's going to be shattling his pants when he lines up behind these guys.
We were clearly
Justin-
sifting through the same software.
Yeah, Justin Pugh was a
thresholds, yeah.
man who had some social media excitement last year for
Yeah.
the Giants when he said he was straight off the couch as the team that he played for on Sunday Night Football, I believe. So that was exciting.
All right, let's move off the line before people fall asleep. All right, how about the defensive line? Okay, who we putting on the edge?
Okay, I'm excited to get Jerry Hughes on the team.
We playing 3-4 or 4-3?
Finally.
I would say we are. You could go 4-3 here if you wanted.
Yeah,
to
I think 4-3.
I think so too. I mean, Emmanuel Ogba's still out there.
Yeah, I think Jerry Hughes, Emmanuel Agba.
Bud Dupree.
It was in a weird system. You know, our friend Henry Hudson pushed back on me a little bit that I had Agba in my top 101 when Xavier Howard wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, Agba always used to be good, and then he didn't really fit in the Fangio scheme, maybe. Melvin Ingram's never disappointed when he signs with the team halfway through the season.
Justin Houston.
Somehow, Unique
Graybeard last year.
Somehow, Unique Ngakoue is not old enough to qualify still, yet he's been in the NFL for 73 seasons. But
Who's putting their hand in the dirt?
Well, both the edge rushers.
Yeah.
I'm trying to use terminology.
Yes.
Who are the D tackles?
Calais Campbell.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a great one.
38.
That will alleviate
talk
my
about it.
concerns about Michael Thomas because Campbell will keep that.
Yeah,
locker
he'll
room
keep
in
him.
line.
He'll keep him in.
Well, I think we haven't gotten to our coaching staff, but there's some pretty good names available
Yeah.
that I think could really keep the discipline on.
Did
the team.
Ndamukong Suh retire?
He?
He's
I
doing
think
British television.
he did not get a job this year. So
Is he still spending summers with Lee Iacocca on the plant?
Larry-
assembly line.
Lawrence Guy, who
Larry Guy. Okay.
famously made the All Decades team for the Patriots in the 2010s somehow.
William Golston is out there.
Jordan Phillips. I'm going to go Campbell and Guy as my picks at defensive tackle, but it's not a strong group.
Yeah, I
Campbell.
didn't
Put
have
their
a long
hand in the
list there,
dirt,
but
you know,
I
go to
think
work.
Campbell will help
Lunch
make
bell
up
guys.
the weakness of the other candidate.
All right, linebackers.
Anthony Barr.
Barr was there last year.
You've got
Zach Cunningham came in and played some snaps. Quan Alexander. It's not a strong
Kind of like Quan there.
position.
Nick Vigil.
It's a bunch of guys who keep getting signed like late in the mix and they fill in. I think the linebackers making a comeback in the NFL of teams realizing that they're important, and the lack of names available might spell that out here.
All right, so let's go Barr, Alexander, and give us one more.
Cunningham.
Zach Cunningham. Okay.
Jack Leonard is too young for this. He's not with the.
Barely, though.
I've lost many. Shaq Leonard's not turned 28 this year?
Oh, we're doing this with all
you're right.
positions.
You're right.
Yeah,
I
no,
take that
no,
back.
yeah.
You're right. All right, this is where I've lost many seasons is in the secondary. We are too slow.
I don't
in
hate this
secondary.
group. This
It's
time around.
ironic,
pretty great.
whereas I think I keep saying it. Now this is the strength of our team. I think the secondary is.
How could that be? How could there be
I don't know why.
impact makers in
It could be draft related
on the
too.
open
Where
market
there's a
right now.
couple guys and they're like 30, 31. Like you got Stefan Gilmore's out there.
That's
Stephon
home
Gilmore
run.
and Steven Nelson are two guys who play. You know, Steven Nelson was a lower level, but played starting cornerback at a pretty high level last year.
I love Gilmore.
Xavier Howard.
Oh.
That's
You
you
guys
need
are
three
right.
corners, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Who are we playing in the slot?
Well, they're all so experienced that we can
Put Howard in the
create
slot?
all sorts of strategic chaos for the.
We put
opposing
Gilmore on an island and say, good luck, one more year.
Yeah.
One more ride, son.
Yeah.
Just leave him on an island.
These are some reasonable players, though. By the way, Adoree Jackson does not qualify, but he's a reasonable.
Whenever you could
player,
leave a
so.
32-year-old cornerback on an island
Got to do
for
it
60 minutes,
in today's NFL.
Gotta do it.
But you know what? I want to play a lot of zone because of their age, and
Okay.
also because we've got good safeties. The safety position,
that's always flush
strong.
in this exercise.
Justin Simmons is
Jesus,
like
Gilmore's
a
33.
recent All-Pro. Justin Simmons,
Gilmore's turning 34 in September by week 2. Okay.
but he was playing well.
All right. Yeah, we're definitely playing zone.
It's still a quality player until
I mean, look,
otherwise.
it's the NFL or wherever we play in 2024. We got to be diverse.
gotta mix it up.
We got to mix it up.
Mix it up. Yeah. The scheme is fluid. It's not the old days. The scheme's fluid. Don't try to put us in a box.
If they join a team in real life and get hurt in real life, does
No,
it
it's
affect
over.
their health on our
Tell
team?
me this
No.
safety group isn't better than some NFL teams. Justin Simmons, Quandre Diggs, J-Ron Curse, and either Micah Hyde or Tashawn Gibson. Hyde might be retiring, so that
How
I'd
many
go
roster
Simmons and
spots
Diggs.
do we have for safety?
I don't know.
I just usually do 2.
Two.
Let's go 3 because we're gonna play. We're trying to.
We're
be
mixing
different.
and matching.
We're playing
Well,
a
if you
3
look-
safety defense sometimes.
Well, let me try to sneak a
I'd say
12
you look
guy
at
on
our-
the
the
field.
look at our-
linebackers are so bad. I want to play one
Well, now we're talking
linebacker.
how
at a
the
time.
Right, we play a
Sausage gets made.
4-1
Right.
6.
I'm going to do a little sneaky, get a 12th on the field move. See if anybody catches it.
I just think I want to play. We don't have a lot of
Like,
speed.
Hey, Quandre,
Yeah.
get out there. Sneak out there.
That usually works.
We don't have a lot of speed. I just want to prevent the big play. I'm going to play 6 defensive backs at all times.
6 DBs.
Yeah. And just like
The umbrella
try to
scheme.
let
I
them
like that.
Yeah.
let them complete 5
Keep
yard
the rain
pass.
showers off us.
Yeah.
It's like 18-yard screen pass after 20-yard screen pass.
These
after
are guys that
16-yard screen
were
pass.
in my 101 or close. Curse,
Who's our third seed?
Diggs.
Simmons, Diggs, and
Let's go J-Ron Curse.
All right.
Good player.
all right. Head coach.
There's only one choice.
Go ahead.
I mean, do I
He's
have
writing
to
a book
say it?
right now.
He was wearing a University of Washington, or is it Washington University sweatshirt this weekend, giving people in the Pacific Northwest just the feels, I think, because he was with his son, Steve Belichick, at a Washington coaches clinic.
Did you watch the game on Monday?
Bill Belichick is our head coach.
Hell yeah.
That is
I know that doesn't mean a lot in the modern league anymore. But for the Graybeards, there's never been a more perfect synergy of a man who's been counted out because of his age. I don't tell me anything else. Belichick is the belle of the ball if he's 62 instead of 72. He has been counted out because people say the game has passed him by. The Graybeards are here to prove
Yeah, when
everyone
we talk about like a violent coup d'état in terms of a hiring cycle, this would be it because this is someone who could go break Don Shula's record as the coach of the Graybeards.
and
Wow, that'd be good.
that's pretty good. And I'm going to say these two men, although they seem like they wouldn't be a good fit, they have actually, if I'm not mistaken, been on the same staff together. It is a man who famously said he didn't come to kiss Bill Belichick's rings, but I kind of like pairing Bill with Rex Ryan. And
Oh, wow.
go to work.
Absolutely.
So Rex is DC, Bill's the head coach. It's Bill's defense, obviously, but it's Rex there. Rex famously cooked up Bill in the 2010 AFC divisional playoffs. They can work together and make magic.
I mean, you talk about that the team programs and stuff. We've got Rex Ryan and Bill Belichick joining forces.
Was he on the Patriots staff? And
Rob Ryan.
Rob
was.
Ryan.
Rob Ryan was.
Rex never. Oh,
Not Rex.
he was on
Rex was on the Ravens. Yeah.
staff. And
Yep.
okay. So maybe Bill might veto that, but I'm going to do what other people were unwilling to do. I'm going to give Bill the final call. Like if Bill isn't comfortable with that,
Yeah, I thought you were going somewhere else with this, and I kind of like the idea of, first of all, this is the roster Bill's always wanted, just a bunch of hard-nosed, intelligent players, old,
Lunch
slow, smart.
bunch
That's
of progress stoppers.
He likes that in the NFL. He's going to like it on the
Yeah.
Graybeards. I think, give a little sugar with all the sourness that Bill gives you and bring in Pete Carroll. Those are two of the greatest defensive minds.
Ooh, that's a good call.
Just to pump everyone up.
so freaking jacked. I'm so freaking
Can we only have 2 coaches? We got to have multiple coaches.
I think that's the play. As much as I love Rex, I think Bill replaced Carroll, didn't he? Once upon a time in New England.
He did.
And that was an ageism type thing too, the Pete Carroll thing.
Exactly.
So,
So I think he's a perfect fit. So DC, Carroll, head coach Bill. I think we got to give Frank Cignetti another chance at OC. I think Frank deserves
All
it.
right.
How old's Frank?
Yeah, let's.
Got to be over
He's
what?
56, I think. Hold on.
Frank's at a. Okay, let's see. Frank. How old is Frank? He's turning 58.
58.
So yeah, let's get him because he got bounced by the Pitt Panthers.
Right, and that never felt
They said
fair.
he wasn't good enough. Probably
never felt
ages him.
fair, yeah.
Like looking back, probably ages him.
I think so.
And then of course, special teams coach always and forever, Mike Westhoff. He trashed. No, he didn't trash Belichick. He was on our show and was annoyed that we were asking him like questions he didn't want to talk about. Westhoff trashed Parcells in his book, which Belichick's going to love. So they're going to, and they once upon a time coached together on the Jets. So
Yeah.
This is an incredible staff. Belichick, Carroll, Westhoff, Cignetti. Let's go.
And I just to get the gang back together because you don't hear about him much
Mhm.
lately. Let's bring in Charlie Weiss as like a consultant.
Get him in there.
Just that weekend.
Just get him
Remember
in the
Charlie?
building. Consultant.
Good times.
Hard to forget him.
Tom Brady.
Get him in the building.
He's not that old actually. 68 years old.
Charlie
His
Weiss.
son is the offensive coordinator for.
I'm just
Lane-
going to put in
for Lane
captions here.
Kiffin's Old Miss team. How about that?
Going to put in captions here. Get him in the building.
The coaching staff really changes.
It's a think tank.
My opinion on this team because before I learned about the coaching staff or thought about it, I was going to predict 0-17.
Mm.
I did not think this team was winning a ball game.
Not a single game. You're telling me
The
Tannehill
offense
can't get hot in the
stinks.
defense can't get some stops?
What did they go a year ago? What was the?
I predicted 6-11, and they went 4-30.
They won 4 games with Carson Wentz.
I believe I predicted
They're
they would
gonna
go
win 5 games.
1-16 or 2-15 last year. This team seems worse, but actually, after talking through it, it's a little better than I thought.
I think 5-12.
We got to keep Tannehill healthy no matter what.
And we got to keep Weiss healthy as well. All right. Yeah. I'm gonna put with this coaching staff and the chips on the shoulders. I'm gonna predict 9-8.
That is that is insane.
Because of the coaching staff, I think you put in an
think
average
it's
coaching staff, it'd be 0-17. I think Bill coaches this.
That's so messed up. How many?
Does a great
We
job.
went through all these position groups saying, "Oh, this is a great group. This is a really good group," and we're not going to steal a win with a basic coaching staff like that. I think that's
now
unfair
you're
to these.
saying
Well, there's just a couple position groups.
That betrays the
just
very
feels-
nature of the exercise, Greg. We're not nihilists here with the Graybeards. Like, we believe in these
Just
guys.
trying to be realistic.
I'd say it's maybe the best secondary the Graybeards
Yeah.
have ever had,
The
and
front-
that was killing them.
It's a great secondary.
2 years ago.
I don't know where we're getting pressure. I think they're picking on our linebackers. The protection, we'll see. But if they can't keep Tannehill healthy,
We're in trouble. That is everything starts there. By the way,
suddenly it's Zeke 27.
we
times
haven't
a
had a
game.
consistent pass rusher, by the way, since John Abraham.
No,
True story.
All right, because of the coaching staff, I think it's a magical season, and they coach him up to 6 wins. And it's he gets Coach of the Year votes, getting those 6.
Team of ATN.
I'd do that today.
All right, there you go. That is the Graybeards of 2024. Geez, Tannehill, ice that ankle, bud. Ice them both. Get in the hyperbaric chamber until training camp. That's what we need. Health at the QB position, and I think we can steal. We could steal a lot of wins. All right, we'll take a break and then we'll close things out.
Help it! I'm so hungry. We need your help! We need this. Come on, Gregg. We are the future. Will you be my dad? We need your help, Gregg! Can I trust you? Hey, Dad. We must listen to Delaware. Do it for us. We need your help, Gregg.
Think about it.
We love Delaware. We really need to listen to Delaware. It's up to you.
Wow.
First of all, adorable.
Yeah.
Those are all of our children. I think, is Walker in there?
No, my kids.
Oh, your kids were not involved. I texted your wife. She didn't reply.
I believe mine were, but I'm not certain about that.
No. Oh, you didn't hear? I heard Luke and Colton in there.
I went in thinking it was just your two, so I'd have to listen again.
Really?
Yeah, but that was also a long time ago. So their voices have changed.
Many years
Yeah.
have passed.
Am I on a podcast?
There's Walker. Many years have passed since, Greg, we first have asked about the tapes, the Delaware tapes. And this is not, by the way, this isn't an ambush, so don't worry. But developing news. When you went away on vacation,
Yeah.
there may have been some conversation about reopening the investigation for the tapes.
Okay.
And I want to tell you that we are in possession of the tapes now.
Wow. That is an ambush.
But I'm not playing the tapes,
Oh.
and I haven't listened to them either.
Well, you're going to be disappointed.
But I have the tapes.
Wow.
We put a call out,
Yeah, call to arms. People responded.
call to arms. I don't want to give up my source here, but we're in possession of the tapes. Now, I want to just cycle back, Greg. I want you to think about this, because I know your first instinct is going to say, F you, they stay in the vault, we never hear them. But those children that you heard,
Better for the bit.
those children that you heard were begging for it,
Yeah.
begging. And it reminded me why that existed in the first place, which was the idea that if we can put together some type of charitable donation, and the listeners could get involved as well, as Mark and I will as well, toward Gregg's charity of choice, the Food Bank of Santa Monica.
Right, sure, that would be appropriate.
In exchange for giving us access to a listening session, a one-time listening session of Delaware. So I'm going to, again, put that out there to you, Gregg. Now that we have the tapes, out of respect for you as a friend, I would never just ambush you and play the tapes. But we do have the tapes now. So now it's just a matter of you agreeing and giving the listeners. And the reason it came up while you were away is people have been constantly hitting us up about this for years.
Constantly would be the right word
right.
there.
Like, where are the tapes? The Delaware tapes. Come on, Gregg. So the fact that now we do have the tapes, it is fully, the ball is in your court to give it's really twofold. Give the listeners what they've been clamoring for a decade. And two, to actually help people in need via a donation to charity.
You also could factor in the potential outcome that Dan and Mark cannot find a tape player anywhere. So that's the second part of this mission.
It's an MP3 file. Don't worry.
Okay.
Oh,
we're set there. Yeah.
I don't believe you that you haven't listened. Wow.
I promise you.
Actually, I do believe you, but I'm surprised.
I was in Hawaii. It was
the wrong words for it.
We put the call out and immediately heard back from parties connected to Western Massachusetts.
Lightning quick.
Oh, it is an ambush. It's quite a surprise. It's going to be...
You want to think on it? We don't need an answer.
It's going to be disappointing to hear the 45-second joke songs over a tape recorder that were made with us in a piano.
No, it will not be disappointing.
But maybe it will be disappointing, or as Mark points out rightly, probably not going to be disappointing. Because he did this story. I shouldn't even say he. This person, this individual, even gave me some background information.
I know who it is. How would I not know who it is?
I don't know. What do you mean? We don't know what you know.
There is only one person who would have kept everything, kept a record, kept everything going. So it's
they betrayed you.
Well,
start right there.
Sure, he wouldn't look at it like that.
Are you upset with me or this individual?
No, I can't be upset. That you just dug it up. Finally, it happened.
If you know who this is, he has a kind of a funny little story also about your time together in high school, working at the local newspaper.
It was not the local newspaper, but it was our school newspaper, in which we were co-sports editors for a hot minute, and then I sort of just bailed on it and left him to do all the work.
He kind of hints at that, but the email sent by this source was very jovial in nature.
Oh yeah.
So there's I don't believe there to be, and Mark, I haven't shared this with you either, any bad intentions. It was more, do you want this? Here it is. And now Gregg has a big decision to make, and I wouldn't betray you and your privacy if you want to keep the past in the past, but just letting you know that it's out there.
Think about it.
And that is, that's a major score, by the way, by the Zuzzer as a journalist. To after years of looking to find the tapes, and now it is in your hands, and you tell us if you're open to the idea of a donation to bring the tapes forth. Perhaps we play them at our remote podcast at the Strand in about a month. I think that would be a listening party, if you will. These are all just ideas.
I would Gregg, sleep on it multiple times. Just stretch this out for let's really build up to that live show.
That's a good idea. And that's,
Listening
what great journalism work by you, Dan, to read the tweet that was sent to you.
Okay. See, don't hit out at me
Instead of
for doing my job.
I actually do remember when Jeff sent a similar one 7 or 8 years ago. It might have been over Facebook or something like that. And just everyone ignored him. And I was like, okay.
Well, the investigation took on new legs from that.
Or it was even brought up on this show. It was many years ago, maybe 10 years ago.
The investigation.
See what he's doing.
Has been completed. And now it shifts to decision time.
Yeah.
In this decision year for our country, a pivotal election coming up, it is Gregg now that first has the pivotal decision.
And for new listeners, it was a band I was in. jokey band. I mean, we didn't really play shows other than I think our school's talent show a few times, and we had some songs, we had some tapes.
And the call was put out there, and my source, a listener, tracked down the source on social media to let him know that the call was out.
All the President's Men 2.0.
Unbelievable. All right, so there you go. Let us know. We want to hear your debut album. How do you want it cooked? We're interested in maybe Shiny Man Went to Frogtown.
Was that second? That was second.
I don't know. All right. We'll be back on Wednesday. I mean, what a bombshell. You get the tension in the air. It's not even like an unhealthy. I could feel Gregg's gears turning like, should I or shouldn't I? And I can help people. Like all that stuff is happening in real time right now.
Yeah.
Mark, it really is.
It is a fascinating subplot to our lives.
As
really
much as
our
I
lives.
am loath to help people, it's a tough decision.
All right. Well, you just try to sleep with it if you can. Until then, we'll maybe get an answer in the hopefully near future. We'll be back Wednesday. Another episode of Around the NFL. Till then, heed the call.